Oh boy.
Oh,
Wakey,
hello.
wake up.
Hello. Oh,
Hey.
oh. I don't know why this isn't working. Well, hello everyone who is watching today. We are live on Facebook. Unfortunately, it is not streaming over to the Visibility Hackers Facebook group,
Oh,
but I can make that correction. We're also live on YouTube. Hello to everyone who's joining us on our extended views on Lefty's channel and on Mark's channel as well. Welcome to the Business Building Book Club, my favorite place on a Thursday morning. How is everyone doing today? Mark, you're coming in all the way from Texas. It was like 100 and something odd degrees last week. How is it going this week?
Oh boy.
Oh my gosh, it's even warmer. We're going through rolling blackouts because of the strain on the energy grid.
Yeah.
And I'm making it a point every day to at least go to the pool once, twice, maybe even 3 times.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Lefty, how are you?
I am good. I have to hear more about this information of this hot weather because I'm going to be in Arkansas in 2 weeks, and I need to make sure I pack correctly because if I'm hearing 100 degrees, and I'm pretty sure Texas and Arkansas are not too far away from each other, so
Yes.
I got to do my due diligence here and get the app on my phone and be like, okay, what are we dealing with?
Yeah. You've been down here before, Lefty?
No, not that. No, not to your neck of the woods. I think the closest, and I'm pretty sure I'm still far away because my geography with states is completely ass backwards.
Hey, say
Missouri. That's the closest I can think of.
Okay. Where in Missouri?
St. Louis.
St. Louis. Okay. So you're just a little bit further north. We are the bottom, I would say the bottom center of the United States, Texas. You know,
Yeah.
I think it's the biggest state land-wise. And there's the saying is that everything is bigger in Texas.
I was going to ask you, is that actually true?
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Texans like to think that it is, so they make things bigger. I mean, food, events, they just do it big here. They do it
But
big.
fun fact, and I could be wrong, but I heard that the cowboy originated in Arizona. Texas just adopted the cowboy.
They probably did.
I think the cowboy actually started in Oklahoma and Indian Territory.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's a whole nother story.
But we have a different story today because we're talking about the brand gap, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, look at that transition. Oh, but
this is an awesome
we can
book.
talk about branding all we want, and we will. But I want to give you guys a little heads up. Welcome to the summer edition of Book Club. We're going to do things slightly different for the next few weeks, just so that we have some kind of a summer vacation. And I know a lot of you are going away for the summer. You got the kids gone. Maybe they're at summer camp. Maybe they're home, and you're still trying to hustle with your business. You're still trying to learn and get the most out of all of the great books that we have here on the Book Club. So what we've chosen to do for the next couple of weeks is to read some much shorter books. The book we're reading right now, we're going to take 2 weeks to read it, but you could literally read it. It is designed to be read in one flight. It only takes a few hours to read through the whole book, but we're going to read these shorter books for the next few weeks. So you have those quick grab and go books that you can still get some great knowledge out of in a short period of time. So think about your road trip books, think about your weekend books, all of those kinds of things. You don't need to be hauling around the big ones.
Sitting
We'll say
by the pool.
Sitting by the pool, exactly. We're going to read some nice short books that, hey, might even be a great opportunity to read these shorter books with your teenagers. Get them involved in the process as well. So without further ado, introducing The Brand Gap. So previous to this book, there was a book that set the precedent in how to really think outside of the box when you're publishing a book, as well as the topic of let's stretch outside of what we usually use these books for. Mm-hmm. And it was a book that was very close to my heart. It was one of my textbooks growing up. I went to a school that was partly designed by that author. And the book was called The Medium is the Message, from the one and only Marshall McLuhan. He's a Canadian theorist, talks about communication theory in like the 1960s. And he came up with this crazy idea, which we were on track for a long, long time, that because of technology that we have available to us, like this was long before the internet, he was publishing this. He was talking more along the lines of TV and radio communications and text and publishing, but the internet set that on fire as well. And his idea was that because of these technologies, we would all become one global family, one global community that shares the same language, that shares the same global culture. And I think that idea is really radical and really interesting. But what I personally was like, that's how I grew up, this crazy radical thinking idea. But then I got into business and was like, well, how can we apply these things? Yeah. How can we think about stretching outside of the box? How can we publish books differently? And if you look at these books, they don't look like regular books. There's text, but there's big pictures, there's graphics, there's infographics, there's whiteboard marker kind of feel on this. And so the next step in that process, if you're along the ride with me here, if you're like, heck yeah, we take these crazy ideas we have when we're teenagers and now we apply them to the realities we have in our businesses, well, this is where the brand gap comes in. The brand gap, I'm just going to spoiler alert right now. We're talking about the bridging that gap between the visuals, what we're seeing, and that brand, and we go way deeper into what a brand is, and the strategy we have with our business. So often there is such a space missing. These are two, usually in big companies, two very different teams. But I want you guys to bridge that gap. And this book, oh my goodness, is such a quick way to change the way we think about brands. And that's why I want to dive into this. I'm so excited. So first off, I want to hear from Lefty, because Lefty was the one who suggested this book. So Lefty, so far, we've read about half the book so far for today's episode. But so far, what are your thoughts? What inspired you to bring this book forward for the book club? Tell me what your thoughts are and what you've learned so far since you've dived back into it.
You know what? This book was the reason why I like it so much is because, like, I come from a territory where a lot of people in the business world probably have never experienced. Maybe some of you have, like, back when I was in high school kind of thing. But typically the majority of people who are in business did not go through what I went through, which was being a touring international DJ for 15 years. Being a DJ is all about branding, right? Like, you look at I was no David Guetta or Steve Aoki or Tiesto or all these big commercial brand names, but when you look at those guys, you can automatically hear their music just from saying the name. Like, you can close your eyes and feel where they are, right? Because it's not so much about their messaging, but their branding makes them these larger than life characters. So I realized the importance of, like, branding pretty much from like a young age, from when I was at least, well, I mean, I got into this when I was like 14. So I'm going to say, like, by 18 years old, I was slowly starting to have a good idea of, like, what branding actually meant. And then when this came out, it just brought me back to that time where I was like, oh my God, yeah, like I remember doing a couple of those things. And it's like now I'm relearning everything to put it into my business again. And that's the one thing with everything that I do is I need to make sure that when you look at something of mine, you can turn around and be like, Lefty did that. That's a Lefty video. That's a Lefty image. That's a Lefty. You know what I mean? Like that's how I position myself. Not so much of the whole thing of like, oh wow, Lefty made a good point. You know, message is great, but I look at it as if you were to put me in one of those interrogation rooms with 6 other brands around the same playing field and level as me, could you turn around and be like, that was a Lefty video? And that means the most to me. And that's why I focus so much on branding. And that's why this book can literally help so many people because it's been such an amazing refresher for me.
Yes, absolutely.
So Mark, I want to know from you, in the first few pages of this book, they explained what branding is. And they talk about
what branding isn't.
And they talk about what branding isn't exactly. Did any of that surprise you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I probably would not have picked up this book on my own. So one thing I love is that we're all choosing books, and it's giving us this this broader knowledge base that we're building on. And I didn't know who Marty. I wasn't familiar with Marty Neumeier, if you were, but you all have introduced me to him as well as Marshall McLuhan. Thank you both for that. My life will be better because of it. And so just one thing, you know, after you're introduced to someone, there's something that I like to call the shadow funnel. Is you see someone first, you watch their ad, and the next thing you do is you go and Google, and then you start to do a little bit more research about them. That's the shadow funnel. And so just a real quick note, I saw a few interviews conducted with Marty Neumeier, and where he was really sharing more deeper insights into why he wrote the book. He expounded deeper into it, and I created a playlist. So if anyone's out there watching, just make sure to subscribe to the Mental Marketer YouTube channel, where you can just follow along with an additional Marty Neumeier playlist to just go deeper into the brand gap. All right.
Oh yeah, the first time I was introduced to playlists actually was not on YouTube. The first time I was introduced to playlists was Beatport. So that's the website or the source in which I was getting a lot of my music when I was performing. And as the performer, as the DJ and the artist, when you made a profile, you were able to create your own playlists. So I would always do like my top 10 of the month, and then it would give an opportunity for like my fans, if you want to call it that, or my community members, because they still technically were community members, an opportunity to be like, oh, like what's in Lefty's ear this month, you know what I mean? And then they would download that stuff, and it was almost like a good way, like it was a cool way to support the artists as well and introduce people the way we're introducing books. So Mark, that's awesome that you're doing that. But Molly, what do you think of this right here? This
Okay, give me a page number.
What is it?
The first page right here. First of all, a brand is not a logo.
Oh
Yes.
yeah. Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. That's big.
I thought it was really interesting because it goes on further. It's like it's not just a logo, and then it goes into
not
the
a slogan.
history of corporate design.
Yeah.
And so that's a world that when I started getting into the world of design, I was doing corporate design and all of that stuff. And it was logos, logo types, headers. You had to have the right. I also, my mom worked at Canada's biggest newspaper and was part of the design team there. And so when they had to change the way that everything was laid out in the paper and the visual brand identity of the paper, I thought that was really fascinating. But in this book, he goes, yeah, and that's not branding either. That is
you know what
to do it in the past. That was just visual packaging. I was like, okay, I'm in for this ride.
Interestingly enough, with my research of Marty Neumeier, he was a graphic designer. Did you know?
Yep.
He was a graphic designer, and he began to realize how it is not, brands and logos are not your brand. They're not your brand. Yeah. But he realized there was a gap between having the logo and the brand. But the logo and the design can communicate branding. That was a real big takeaway that I got from that was from my additional research, because I don't think you mentioned that in the book, but you mentioned design, and I said, that's interesting, the connection.
Exactly. And the evolution. And that it's constantly evolving. When we're talking about corporate identities, right? This is back in the last century, literally the last century. That's how things would be designed. He talks a lot about the big companies that we all know, like IBM, and Nike gets brought up. And these are companies that have a brand. There's a feeling, there's an identity behind them that comes out when we see that logo, when we see pieces of their visual branding. But what this is helping me realize is that your visual branding is here. The rest of your brand is so much bigger. Yeah. And he tells us that brand is those feelings. It's intangible. It's not something that we can value. He even mentions if branding is so important, why don't these companies put their branding on their valuation sheets? It's because it's not as easy to show that those metrics. But as we all know, what get measured gets improved. And so now, as brands are evolving, as we're evolving the idea of branding from just visual identity to so much more, he speaks of the communities we have. He speaks of so much that comes into that brand. As companies evolve and learn more about how to create metrics to measure the growth of one's brand, then we're going to see more companies pushing in those directions. Is going to be way more obvious for people just getting started. So you'll be able to skyrocket through that process. But I thought it was so neat. And as technology comes forward, we have live streaming. How are we engaging with our brand, that feeling, that community, that understanding, that way of life with each of these different technologies? And it makes me think of I know Lefty hasn't read it yet, but he has copies now of Russell Brunson's Secrets books.
I do. It's all right there.
You haven't read them?
I just gave him a copy like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, Molly just gave it to me. And, June has been the best and ugliest month. Ugly in terms of insanely busy. Like, I don't even have time to blink. Molly knows very well how my June has been going. So I'm like really happy for July and August, because I'm just going to try and chill and catch up.
Yeah. Can I read one?
Yeah, absolutely.
My very first mark, because you just touched on it, Molly, and you know how we just geek out on these.
I love it.
But
I love that you did supplemental reading as well, Mark. That's bringing it.
I love the supplemental with Daryl Eves. With Pat Flynn. So this is page 2.
Oh, geez, way at the front.
Yeah, page 2, and it's just the second biggest paragraph. It says, so what exactly is a brand? A brand is a person's gut feeling about a product, service, or company. It's a gut feeling because we're all emotional, intuitive beings, despite our best efforts to be rational. It's a person's gut feeling because, in the end, the brand is defined by individuals, not by companies, markets, or the so-called general public. Each person creates his or her own versions of it. And while companies can't control this process, they can influence it by communicating the qualities that make this product different than that product. That is, I believe that's a great summary of what branding is. We think it's something, but it's really what the other person's feeling is about your brand. When I think about some of my favorite brands, like I'm gonna go to a brand like I'm gonna go a sports team.
Yeah.
One of my favorite sports team is the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yep.
Yeah, and you have to think of that as a brand, and what that brand is to me is it's a gut feeling. It's this feeling that I get when I think about the Dodgers, of me and my granddad listening to the baseball game on the radio.
Yeah.
On the radio with my granddad, just anticipating every word coming out of that radio and who's on first, and just that's my gut feeling, and it's deep inside of me.
Yeah.
Someone else's idea or feeling about that brand, it could be completely different, and that's how personalized branding is. It's not what the company says, it's what we feel.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing up a sports team as an example, because our local hockey team here is the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we haven't won a Stanley Cup since my mom was in high school, kind of deal. Like it's kind of a joke that we haven't won, and we're always on the edge. We're always going to win this year. We're going to win this year. We're going to win this year.
Always.
I'm not a fan, so I don't care.
I find it so fascinating because, from a business perspective, the Toronto Maple Leafs is one of the most valuable teams in the league.
Wow.
And it's because of the loyalty of the fans. All of the accessory business ventures that make money for a losing team come because of the strength of that community and the strength of that brand. And that is really interesting. And I think there's lots of sports teams that just have losing record, but they have loyal fans who, again, thank you for your example, Mark, are coming back to those emotional moments, their personal interactions with the brand. That is not phased by what other people's opinions are. It is not phased by the color choice of the logo. It is, they have these deep-seated memories or emotional moments. So if your brand can tie into those, whether you're relating back to memories of past, there's a lot of brands right now that are doing quite well marketing towards our seniors, because they're able to bring back memories and feelings of a time past, for example, and those become really strong. So we can do those in our own brands, regardless of what we sell or what services we provide or what products we supply. I think that's really neat.
Yeah.
But you've been quiet.
What I was going to say was, first of all, one, I think Mark and I have this like amazing telepathic brainwave connection happening right now, because that's actually a point that I wanted to bring up, and he brought it up, and I was going to go based on the fact as to why branding can't be measurable, because you mentioned the measurable thing.
Yeah,
it's because it's because it's not what you say it is, it's what they say it is, right?
Yeah.
So it's very, very difficult to pretty much figure out, like, okay, so we know in the direction that we're going. Toronto, on the other hand, because if we're going to talk about sports teams for a second, us as Canadians are psychopaths when it comes to our sports teams. We actually don't care about the win or loss. I mean, this is what I feel. I feel like
we're too polite to care about winning.
We just like I think we just care enough that we have teams that we can go out, we can enjoy them, we can drink, eat, have a good time. And I'll be completely honest with you, I think it would work against the Maple Leafs if they actually started winning. Because in my opinion, I think they built a brand around losing, and I think they make more money losing.
Ooh, wow. That is an interesting point of view.
Because they literally play, like, let's be realistic. When was the last time they won, Molly? Because I don't really I don't watch that much. It's been years. It's been like 1950 something, I think.
Yeah, let me look it up.
But it's interesting. But you talk about, okay, we'll talk about another American team, the Dallas Cowboys.
But that's the thing, right? It's like I feel like their brand is hope.
Yeah, our last Stanley Cup was 1967.
There you go. The brand, I feel like the brand is hope, that they give the community hope every year that we are going to win, that we are going to get the Stanley Cup. And because of that, they jam-pack seats, they buy jerseys, not in the singles, in the doubles, sometimes even in the triples. They buy the coffee mugs, the shirts, the pajamas, the hats, the pens, the posters, whatever. And I feel like it's because we give they give the audience so much hope in the anticipation of loss.
The anticipation of loss.
To do it all over again. To do it all over again next season and next season and next season. I mean, think about it. Think about it like this for a second. If we won the next 6 Stanley Cups, right? We win the next 6 Stanley Cups. Why do I care to go to the 7th game? The Leafs are probably going to win again. Now and let's say I'm correct. Oh, hey, Lefty, you want to go to the 8th game? Nah, they're going to probably win again. They're probably going to win again.
So you're saying it's the underdog story that
it's very psychological what they're doing. I think.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it because it lets you know that there's no excuse for you not to build your brand.
Yeah,
you can build a brand around losing.
Yeah.
That's really in a positive way too, because I'm looking at the Wikipedia article for the Leafs and just scrolling through pages, you get these random photos of like Matt Sundin, one of the former coaches from like the early 2000s. And I'm like, yeah, I remember that era. It brings me back to that feeling of we can do it, which translates back into I can do it, even though I have nothing to do with hockey.
Yeah.
That's kind of It's kind of interesting. And we could talk for hours about sports.
All right.
But I think it's kind of neat. But Mark, you mentioned Dallas Cowboys. So this will be my closing comment on sports. But if we look at these legacy brands, which include sports teams, you have that intergenerational feeling. So you're talking about listening to the game on the radio with your granddad. I think of going to the hockey games with my dad, who would tell me about, when he snuck into the Maple Leaf Gardens and he hid under the seats to go see the team back in the 60s, and seeing that kind of intergenerational attachment to the brand, I think is fascinating. And that definitely comes with the Dallas Cowboys. You have a beautiful history of the team itself, Then you have the spin-offs with all the cheerleaders and all the reality shows that came with becoming a cheerleader and the all of this, everything that comes with that. What a cool brand.
Yet, and yet they have not been a winning team for years. It's been years. But they still manage to stay at the top of everyone's discussion every year. It's more of,
I think,
when are they going to lose? And it's the same thing like the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah,
their brand. So let me ask, what do you guys think? Because you touched on it, Molly, that branding is it's not put on your spreadsheet, but yet and still it's an intangible asset. It is. I think the example he gave inside the book, if you remember, where he showed that Coke bottle.
Yep.
Remember?
Yeah.
And this is Coke right here without the brand value, and this is Coke with the brand value. Almost more than 50%.
Yeah. And he talks a lot about I think something else that Russell Brunson has mentioned before, and that's the nope, hold on. I started my sentence and then I forgot the other half of it.
Where's your coffee? Where's your tea?
Yeah, exactly. I'll come back to that. I forget.
Well, Mark, I want to mention something about what you were saying is
we were talking about Coke, Molly.
Yeah, I don't know. Lefty, you talk.
Okay, yeah, no, so I wanted to bring up a good point where it's like the Dallas Cowboys did exactly what Old Spice did to revive themselves, but they did it without needing to revive themselves. Football is a manly man sport. Let's be realistic. It's one of those like aggressive sports. So just like me, personally, what did I want to do when I wanted to fill my dance floors? I targeted my sets to women, because if I knew that I targeted my sets to women, the men would follow, right? So the Dallas Cowboys did not, in my opinion, did not brand themselves around the team, did not brand themselves around the sport, but they branded themselves around their cheerleaders. Because why do you even know the Dallas Cowboys? Because it's all about the cheerleaders. They literally put their cheerleaders on a pedestal. They've made an entire brand and a community around the cheerleaders. So I thought that was awesome, because hey, how else do you play off of testosterone? By throwing a bunch of good-looking women in the mix. Like, let's be realistic. It's as sexist as it sounds, it's a smart play.
You think that's a little risky in this day and age? Because when you think about it, that was really back in marketing has evolved a lot. And back then it was, you could really easily use
scantily clad women. Like that's what attracted people. But also on the other side of that is, if you bring that exact same tactic nowadays, you're playing a different game. You're now playing the game of controversy, because people are going to have opinions about doing that either way. So as long as you're not outwardly exploiting these women and they are being paid appropriately, they are being treated with respect, they are treated as if this is a serious career, because it is part of the machine of the brand. Then you'll have people who are like, yay, I love the ladies, this is great. And then you'll have people saying, oh my goodness, this is horrible, this is the worst thing you could possibly do, let's boycott it. But it brings about conversation, it brings about stuff. And you know what, Jen agrees with me.
Hey, look, it's it goes down to exactly what we spoke about before. It's not what you say it is, it's what they say it is.
Yeah.
So it's not the Dallas Cowboys flaunting their cheerleaders to get attention. If I, as the person in the stands, decides in my brain that I'm going to sexualize that, that's on me. That's not on the team. So yes, of course, people would have their own opinions of it. And, I don't know. In the way I look at it is that if you remove cheerleaders from football, I think football would lose its essence.
Okay, let's move away from sports for a minute.
Yeah, let's move away from sports.
Let's move away from sports.
But I think that brands actually communicate. I think they communicate things. Not, they can do things that will influence you to think a certain way.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you guys want to get a little controversial?
Love it.
I love
Bring it
controversy.
Talk about staying on brand, and we'll talk about something that's kind of trending lately, and we'll talk about some of these I'll call them, they've been called woke brands. And there's been some repercussions in the market out there. A lot. One particular, we talk about it. If you've heard about Bud Light. You heard about the recent Bud Light Lefty?
Oh,
I have.
And there's people that have said that they went off brand, and they used the influencer, and they said they didn't know their target market.
Yeah.
I've heard both sides, really.
I don't think that's true.
You don't think so? Well,
I mean, how do you? I mean, as a beer company, you've been around for 30 years. Like, you can't just BS the public right now and be like, "Oh, guys, after 30, 40 years, we have no idea who our market is anymore." Like, I mean, it was a BS publicity stunt, or like to say that, because I mean, how are you one of the largest beer suppliers and you have no idea who your target is, who your branding is,
so I think it wasn't a not knowing who your market was. I think they knew full well who their market was.
That's what I'm saying.
It was a statement from the executive who was in charge of this campaign, looking to broaden their market, to say, let's look outside of this stereotypical view, which I think is a negative stereotypical view of their consumer. And let's stretch it out, because beer is not just for people who fit this stereotype. And when they did that, fantastic. I think the campaign was really great. It was at a perfect scale. It was a very small scale. Nothing was sold. It was just a marketing campaign with one can that was made as a collector's item for that one influencer. And then people blow it out because that executive made a stupid comment saying and degrading that current market. And now people have blown it way out of way too big. And it's kind of funny, because people then try to make these these like pseudo political statements by, let's burn up all of our Bud Light, or let's check our fridge and like, let's destroy all the Bud Light. Like, this was one of the US politicians. I thought it was so funny. He's like, Kid Rock blows up his beer, and then this politician's like, all right, let's get on the trend. And he opens up his beer fridge and there's no Bud Light, and he closes it and goes, well, that was easy. But his whole fridge was filled with a beer that is made from the exact same flipping company. Your money is going to the same place.
Yeah.
And all you're doing is increasing the value of the brand, because when you think beer right now, top of mind, it's going to be Bud Light. Even though I can't stand it, it tastes like water. Like, American beer is horrible. Like,
Bud Light,
Jen, I'm going to amend your statement, and I'm going to say everyone needs to just chill out and drink a Canadian beer. We have higher alcohol content for a reason.
There you go.
All right. So I remember what I was going to talk about with Russell Brunson.
Yes.
So going back to the value, the intangible value of your brand, there's 3 steps in the customer journey that you need to make sure you are hitting on. First, when people don't know who you are, they need to know who you are. So that's step number 1, being visible. Okay. Step number 2, they need to like you. So you have to put out stuff that's going to get them on your same vibe. And then the most important step is when they trust you. So know, like, and trust, right? Those are, if you don't have those in your brand, it doesn't even matter if you put them on the spreadsheet or not. The people who you're trying to get funding from, or the people who you are trying to buy your company or trying to partner with you, are just going to see your brand and go, I don't know who you are, or I don't like what you're putting out there, or I definitely don't trust your brand because I don't have that feeling of security when I see your brand. I don't see you building into a legacy. I see you doing short flame outs, or I see you just chasing trends or whatever. So we have to make sure that we're building in that know, like, and trust factor. Yeah. And then another thing I thought was interesting that they put here is when they talk about the charismatic brand on the top of page 18. So it says the brand gap. There are two ways to look at the brand gap. Number one, it creates a natural barrier to communication. So this is a bad thing about the brand gap. Right. This is where we have a disconnect between the visuals and the design as well as the strategy. There's a disconnect there, which stops us from being able to communicate and meet the know, like, and trust factors, right? And the second point he brings up, which is a positive of the brand gap, which is it when you play it correctly, when you implement both your design and your strategy in a way that is suggested here in the book, which we'll talk about in book club, is it creates a natural barrier to competition. Yeah. Companies who learn how to bridge the gap have a tremendous advantage over those who don't. When brand communication comes through intact, crystal clear, and potent, it goes straight to people's brains without distortion, without noise, or the need to think too much about it. Yeah. It shrinks the psychic distance between companies and their constituents, so the relationship can begin to develop. These gap-crossing, distance-shrinking messages that are the building blocks of a charismatic brand. And he brings up ideas like IKEA and BMW and Disney and Apple and Coca-Cola, all of these brands that have become iconic and connected to emotions. So in our brands, here's my question I have for you guys. In our brands, and Jen, I want your opinion as well. What are you guys doing to connect your brand to an emotion? So let's start out with, what is the emotion you want to connect your brand to? And then what can we do to bridge that gap?
Mark, you want to go first?
That is a great question. And that's something I've been really digging deeper into, because it's something that I need this book. Yeah. It is the bridging of the gap between strategy and creativity, and communicating that in an emotional way. So the emotion, excitement is that's what I would like to communicate, and how I try to communicate that is really through just kind of being excited and having that mirrored back. Yeah, having that mirrored back, maybe like a Disney. When people think about Disney, they think about just great feelings because of maybe you've been to Disney before and you've experienced the live event there, or maybe you've seen a Disney movie. So maybe, my goal is to, after you have watched something or something of content, that you leave with a feeling of empowerment and you feel like you can do it.
Yeah, I would definitely say empowerment is the emotion that's behind visibility hacking. Definitely. Lefty, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna say like I don't know if I guess empowerment and exciting would be the same thing too. I bring it in a different way, right? Like I feel like, and I could be wrong, but I'm just going based on comments I see, but I look at my brand as if I am I am the Texas version of cinematography, that everything is bigger with Lefty. kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like I feel like when I get responses with my brand, everybody is just kind of like, wow, oh my God, I need that. This is huge. That like and again, I could be wrong, but this is what I see. So this is what I'm responding to. And I just feel like I do feel like I bring that excitement. Maybe this isn't necessarily always a positive thing, but maybe some form of like entitlement, like
Okay.
working with me. Maybe to some people might feel like I'm putting them on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Because that's how I feel like I'm doing for them, that I'm putting them above everybody. So I mean that's like that's like a double standard. It can be positive and negative, but yeah, that's it. Like exciting, empowerment, entitled, like that. I think that's the emotion that I go for. And maybe I want to make somebody cry sometimes with a story because I get super emotional with how I speak sometimes. But yeah.
So there are 4 steps, or actually before we get there, let's bring up Jen's big comment here. She says, "This is deep and profound, Molly." Yep. "My emotional gap I strive to close daily is passion. Fiery, excitable, passionate desire for something different, something tall, dark, and intriguingly sexy."
Let's go.
And intriguing.
And that's how I want to start my mornings.
But after reading this, it made me realize that I need to come up with it because it needs to go straight into people's brains without distortion, noise, or the need to think too much about it. That's what really struck me in this passage right here is you don't need to think about it. You don't, your audience doesn't need to think about it. Then the shorter, the more succinct it is, then that's how you're really going to be able to build that brand. And this was, I mean, man, Marty just freaked. He talked about Morton Salt down here.
Exactly.
And he just showed this little logo down there, and you automatically knew what it was. That's the type of communication that you have to be able to do.
You have to kiss your brand. You have to kiss your brand. Keep it simple, stupid. You have to. That's it. That's the best way that I can say it.
Yeah. So there are 4 steps that he gives us to remind us of the disciplines here in the book. So in the first half, so coming up to this episode, we read a couple of them, but we're going to go through all 4 of them in depth next week. But they are differentiate. So how is your brand differentiating yourself from other brands? He talks in the book here about how when we define ourselves as different, when we differentiate our brands, we are no longer competing with the masses where we might have to drop our prices. We might have to do some comparison to our direct competitors. And that might mean dropping value in some way, shape, or form. But when we compete to be the best, when we have that brand behind us, when we have that trust of our community, differentiation is actually the best, smartest thing that we can do, because it's better to be a big fish in a small pond than it is to be a small pond or a small fish in a giant ocean, because you're not going to get much attention at that point. So differentiation, we'll talk more about that next week. Collaboration, which we all love. We are all fans of collaboration. He also talks about innovate, thing that I love to do. And finally, validate. Yeah. So those are the 4 disciplines that we're going to talk more about next week, because I think we got so much more to talk about in just the introduction of this book.
It's funny how we went for how we brought sports into branding and all that. Mark, Mark, I miss your book club branding. You're at the beginning, like the choppiness of like when you're just like doing your mind movement. Like I wonder if people were tuning in, being like, "Oh, I wonder if Mark's gonna chop next week." Like, like that was branding all on its own.
Hey,
Oh.
I know a stream without interruptions is off brand for us.
Well, Jen has a great comment here. When we get that trust from our community, we're excited and we can make their product or service the next hot thing, which I agree. And typos, yes, Jen. I feel you. I feel you.
Oh, and
almost thought
he
that
also
said there.
mentions. Sorry, Mark. What were you saying?
No, I almost thought they would say it sex-sided.
Oh. And he also mentions in the book too, like just before the end of the chapter, that there's no such thing as a dull product, only dull brands.
Yeah. Tell me what you feel about that.
I think that's true.
I mean, well, yeah, of course, because I don't know much about the whole Amazon FBA thing, but let's talk about that for a second. We have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people literally selling the same calculator.
Yeah.
But why is one person making $500 a month, the other person's making $50,000 a month? It's literally in how they put it out there, how they market their calculator, how all that happens, how they brand the calculator, right? So it's true. There really is no dull products. Like there's no such thing as a dull product. And I mean, that's another reason as to why, like, another thing that Amazon gives us, it's like, okay, let's go to Apple, for example. Let's buy the $100 cell phone charger, or can I go to Apple and get a $20 knockoff? It's we're not buying the $20 knockoff because it's only $20. We're clearly buying it because it's like it gives us something. It speaks to us when we're there on the page, right? And then there are those people that go to Apple because it's Apple. They're diehard fans. So it's I mean, it's definitely, in my opinion, it's definitely how you show up makes the difference. Not what you say, not even how you say it. It's because ChatGPT destroyed how we say it. Let's be frank there. So it's now a matter of how do you show up.
Yeah. When you think about the example that he talks about in the book with salt, how boring is salt?
Yeah. Very.
How boring is salt? And how generic is salt? But yet you have this brand Morton Salt. But why do you love it? How did they accomplish that? They accomplished it by showing a person in an umbrella walking in the rain spilling salt. And it's not okay, our salt has the saltiest taste.
Our salt is the most salty salt you'll ever salt.
It has nothing to do with grams or calories, or it goes back to something. And I love this one too. I love this one example of the Men's Warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
And their phrase is, "You're gonna love the way you look." And that advertisement ran for years, and it was very successful. And it wasn't, you're gonna love the shoulders, you're gonna love the length, you're going to love the materials, you're going to love the matching colors. No, it was a simple message, and it was emotional. It was, you're going to love the way you look, guaranteed. And that's those are just some incredible realizations about how you could take something as generic as a suit, and well, I won't say generic because there are different and higher qualities, but it's no different than 15 million other companies out there selling those suits. So that's how you it's about communication. And when you communicate that feeling, then you can be successful. You can be the one on the top. And there's a lot to learn in this chapter in these books as we
It's so good. It's so good.
We love books so much that we're going to do something a little bit different for the summer. For those of you watching, we've combined our powers together. Yes. And we're going to do some giveaways. So for our most active viewers, whether you are watching live or on the replay, we're going to look back at the end of the week and see who is our most active contributor across all of the places you can watch the book.
Come on, mental marketer family out there. Come on, funnel building family.
This might become a small little rivalry here.
Yeah, those little
our three channels.
Where are my Padawans? Bring my Padawans forth. Come on. What we're doing is
this is going to be your opportunity to get your hands on free books, because we are giving away some of our favorite books that we have read over the last year. We've got copies of The Brand Gap. We've got copies of one of my favorite public speaking books, The $1 Million Speaker. We have so much. No, Jen, you are not on Lefty's team anymore. You're on my team. You're my new best friend.
Wow.
Oh yeah. We've got
Lefty.
So come join us, leave your comments, leave your questions, leave your insights. We would love to hear from you, because yes, we want to hear from you, but also we ask some really good in-depth questions that will get your brains thinking about your brands as well. And why not take the opportunity while you're listening to us to just jot down your thoughts so you start taking action. Even if that action is a simple step of reflecting on that question, let that question ruminate in your brain over the next week, and I bet you will come up with a fruitful response. And feel free to jot those down. You can join us over in the Visibility Hackers Facebook group. We would love to see you over there. Get that question going. And I'm also going to drop a special resource. We talked a lot about the emotions connected to our brands. And I know that can be really difficult for some people. It was a little bit challenging for us. We all just kind of stayed around the same area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put out a special downloadable PDF that has a whole bunch of positive emotion words in it that will start your brain going.
Very nice.
Because there's quite a big difference. So it's a one-pager, easy to read. If you're like me and you like the tangibles, feel free to print it off and highlight the words that are most relevant to you. Just go through, give yourself a little timer, highlight the ones that are most relevant. Don't discriminate. And then after your timer is done, go through and start to be more concise about that. And why not come up with a top 3 and share it with your community and get to see what emotions they think are connected to your brand as well. So we got lots of options. Join us in the Facebook group for that. You can head over to visibilityhacking.com, click the link at the very top of the page that says become a visibility hacker. And it'll pop you over there. And why not also, while you're at it, subscribe to the Visibility Hacker channel on YouTube, Create with Lefty on YouTube, and The Mental Marketer on YouTube, so you can pack your YouTube feed full of great value, entertainment, great information about building your brand online and really being able to take charge of your life, your finances, and most importantly, your time.
Yes.
And speaking of YouTube, I switched over to a bi-weekly schedule about a month and a half ago. But guys, I have some juicy pop culture under my sleeve somewhere that I am accelerating this week's episode, because I'm not actually supposed to be posting till next Friday, but I was like, That's too late. I cannot wait for people. I can't wait for the audiences to wait till next Friday to hear about this. So, guys, I'm going to give you a new episode this Friday instead. That way, you won't see anything the following Friday. Sorry, but you'll be happy that you tuned in this Friday. Also, to kick off next week's episode of the Business Building Book Club, because we're talking about 4 pillars of branding, essentially. And the first one is differentiate. So if you guys are watching the replay or live or whatever, but I mean, I feel like you're going to have to do this in the replay, in the comments. How about you kick us off next week and tell us how you differentiate yourselves?
Yeah.
We want to know.
Yeah.
We'll read the comments. That's how we will start next week's episode.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
Comments. Yes, nice. Yeah. Oh, I'm excited for you, Lefty. And I know we didn't get to talk about this beforehand, but you're going to Funnel Hacking Live.
Yeah, I'm working on it. I am working on it. Oh man, we want to end this off, Molly. How about you kick us off with that?
I want in on that.
We got 2 announcements,
guys.
We got 2 announcements. So, one, Lefty is working his way, like literally, he is going to bootstrap his way over to Funnel Hacking Live. It'll be his very first Funnel Hacking Live. I have been trying to drag him for years now, but he will be coming. But we need your help to make that a reality. And here in the visibility hacking world, we're not just about throwing value in a transactional way. No. Lefty wants to get to Funnel Hacking Live, and he wants to bring you guys with him along for the ride. So he's offering really incredible VSL packages that you can have your VSL scripted and shot at Funnel Hacking Live, so that when you get home, when you sit your butt back on that flight or back in your car to drive back home after that incredible event, you will be able to say, yes, I took action. I did something that's going to move my business forward. And the coolest part is you also get to bring Lefty along for the ride. So I'm going to add in an extra bonus that Lefty doesn't even know about. Oh. But if you guys pick up on Lefty's VSL deal right now, I will add to the value. We're going to offer a group mastermind session where we're going to talk about branding. We're going to talk about getting your brand visible. And that is going to be a mastermind workshop. So I'm going to do a little bit of teaching about it. We're going to put everyone in the hot seat, and we're going to be able to say at the end of that night, we took even more action. So let's do this together. And hey, I think Mark's coming to Funnel Hacking Live, so he's going to come along for the party as well.
And we got 8 spots left. Okay,
only 8 left.
We have 8 left. Let's talk about to go back and talk about branding for a second. Let's talk about community, or let's talk about super fans again. Yeah. Okay, I literally sent out the VSL that I created for everyone to help me get the Funnel Hacking Live, and it was literally a matter of
the funnel's not even done, guys.
I literally just sent the video, which is an unlisted private YouTube video, and I just sent it to my fans, and I was like, "Hey, do you have a minute to watch this?" And they would watch it, and literally the response is just, "Let's do it. Let's do it. Period. End of story. I don't even care. Let's do it." And yeah, exactly what Molly said. I don't even have a funnel. I don't have a landing page. I don't have anything, which is, to go back to Pat Flynn, that's the power of building a strong community of people that just not only look at things from what they're getting out of it, but to also be like, yeah, I want to see this journey. I want to see this path happen. So 8 more spots. And if you guys can't wait till Funnel Hacking Live, I'm also putting on the Social Summit series next Saturday, where Molly's going to be there as well. And if you are in person or virtual tickets are $97, and we're going to talk about Instagram. We're going to talk about video sales letters, and we're also going to talk about how you can launch your live show if you haven't done that yet. So make sure if you guys want information on that, let me know because I'd love to see you there. Can't wait till September.
Yeah. I'm so pumped. I'm so pumped for it.
Be there live and in person.
So many things.
So
There's so many things happening.
So good. So good. We are so busy, but we value your time. Thank you so much for joining. And Lefty, you got a task. Make sure you send that video to Jen so she can share it all over the place.
Everywhere.
All the places. And we're going to put it up in the Visibility Hackers Facebook group as well. So you can definitely check it out there. And man, we value your time. Thank you so much for spending it with us. Whether you are live or on the replay, we love you just the same. And thank you so much for your thoughts and contributions this week. Hope to see you again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Everyone say goodbye. We love you. Be excellent to each other.
Bye.